You gonna get yourself killed for this? Huh? For this toxic waste bitch?
What the fuck are you doing?
This is your life. Right here, right now. It's real time. You hear me? Real time. Time to get real, not playback. You understand me? She doesn't love you anymore. Maybe she did once, I don't know, but she doesn't now. These are used emotions. It's time to trade them in. Memories were meant to fade, Lenny. They're designed that way for a reason.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bishop, and with me today, as always, is Sam Stepanenko.
Hello, hello, hello.
A little gruff there, man.
I've been having a real tough time with my voice this last week. It's been really busy at work, and I do talk all day, so my voice does go sometimes. So
fair enough. And Trish Coughlin, everybody.
Hey, everybody. I don't talk all day. I type a lot, but my fingers are fine, so I don't know what else to say.
And back from the Conan episode, Tyler Cox.
Hey, how's it going?
Yay.
I do talk all day like Sam. My throat's fine.
And
fuck you.
Tyler is like my favorite guest because he always brings beer.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sociable.
Ding.
I
Tink.
already drank my beer.
Dim some good Okanagan Spring 15-16.
Yeah, he brings good beer.
He brings good beer.
It's just good taste.
The bottle stuff, not this shitty can stuff.
No cans for my friends.
That's right. Quality. So today, we are talking about, and I think one of Tyler's more loved films. That's
Definitely
why you're here.
One of my favorites.
We are talking about Strange Days from 1995. An eerie look at the millennium.
4 years
Yeah.
later.
4 years later.
4 years later.
The far-flung future of New Year's Eve of 1999.
And
We're all
still
afraid
super
of,
relevant 20 years later.
Well, it's
If
still
not more
super
so.
relevant, yes. But when this was originally conceived, it was in 1984, right? So I think that was one of the conceits that they absolutely felt they had to keep, was because they wanted to focus on the turn of the century.
And then they added other stuff in 1992.
Yeah.
And that's also going to be the most difficult thing for us because the primary events of this film are on the eve of the millennium, which for us is past, and how far in the future do we want to take it? How much closer to the present do we want to keep it? It's hard to say. So we're
talk
gonna
that out.
We're gonna
Yeah.
talk that out as we go because we don't pre-talk it out.
No.
This movie was written by some young up-and-comer, and one day something will happen there. James Cameron.
Who's he?
I don't know.
Has he done anything else?
A couple of things. I don't know.
A couple really
Few little movies.
popular movies, I guess.
Yeah.
I think he
They
did
really
a
well.
movie about a boat or
Yeah,
something
but that
like
sank, so it's fine.
Go figure.
Yeah, something with blue aliens. Like
Yeah.
was it the
Nobody
Smurf
bought-
movie?
Who would
Anything.
buy blue aliens?
I don't know. And there was something about robots coming from the future. How dumb is that?
I know, right?
That is stupid.
It's not like you could
Jeez.
get many movies out of it.
Thankfully, he had one good script in him, and that was
Yeah.
Strange Days. Granted, maybe the good bits come from the co-screenplay writer Jay Cox, who also wrote Gangs of New York.
Ooh, okay.
So
That explains some of the pacing in this movie, actually.
Yes,
it does.
It really does.
And this was directed by James Cameron's
Then wife.
then wife,
Yeah.
Kathryn Bigelow, and damn near derailed her career as a director. Thankfully, she bounced back because we got Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30, and of course, she did Point Break from episode 36 that we covered on the show.
Exactly.
Yeah, we like Kathryn Bigelow.
We do like Kathryn Bigelow.
And she, like they say, like it derailed her career. But looking back on this film, I don't think it should have. Like it was just
No. In my mind, this thing was a marketing disaster. This thing had a budget of $42 million, and it looks great.
That's all.
It's 1995,
That's
so
Pretty big. Yeah.
that's still big. It's probably modest for what she achieved in this film. And some of the conception of this film, especially the first-person shots, were conceived well in advance. Like they were a year in development, just trying to
special
figure
cameras.
it out.
Yeah.
They had to develop special cameras, lightweight 35mm cameras, because they weren't doing digital at that point, and they were kind of done. Almost all the cameras are actually in motion in this movie.
Yep.
So that's another editing thing. And James Cameron also did uncredited editing on this film because he wasn't part of the editing union at the time.
Yeah.
So he couldn't take credit for it. But the budget, $42 million, it grossed in the U.S., and granted, I don't have a worldwide gross, but back in 95, the worldwide market wasn't as big as it is now. And I hate to say it, $8 million. That was it.
Whoa.
Really?
I think $8 of that was mine because I know I did go see this in the theater. I couldn't wait to see
I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, oh, I gave him money. I'm like, oh, wait, I'm going to got a screener to that.
Yeah.
I never actually saw this one in the theater,
But I did buy
it twice. VHS, and it was actually one of my first DVDs I bought.
I had it on VHS. So sadly, I have not rebought it yet, but it was on Netflix, so that was easy enough. But I think it's going to go back into my actual Blu-ray collection at
I
some
rented
point.
this a few times.
Yeah. Well, this used to be a New Year's staple for Tyler and I when we were roommates.
Yeah.
Every New Year's Day after we would both be sitting on the couch, mildly hungover, and we'd watch Strange Days.
Thus, its placement for the episode.
Yes.
I remembered it being a New Year's thing, and I'm like, oh, that'll be perfect for our New Year's episode.
Exactly.
Yeah. This movie stars Ralph Fiennes, who is also an alumni, like Kathryn Bigelow, of the show now. He was in our episode 99 of Red Dragon Manhunter.
Yes, he was.
Yes. Angela Bassett,
Awesome.
Juliette Lewis, Tom Sizemore, Michael Wincott. It's nice to see his career went on after some tragedies that he was involved with on The Crow.
Yeah.
Not his fault, but
No.
I'm sure that weighed heavily on him. Vincent D'Onofrio, William Fichtner, Glenn Plummer, Bridget Bacco, and Richard Edson. Like, this movie is just jam-packed with top talent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Before they're actually big names.
I don't know. Ray Fiennes had already done
Schindler's
List.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett was certainly a rising star as well. Tom Sizemore was a bit of the in at that.
He was
point in
a
time.
hot
Yeah.
character actor.
Yeah.
Right.
And Juliette Lewis had just come off of Natural Born Killers.
Cape Fear.
Cape Fear
Cape Fear.
and California.
Yeah, so like everybody was really a hot property at that time.
I think when they were making this, I don't think they were. I think they were probably in that process of becoming a hot property.
Yeah.
Right. But that should have sold this movie when it came out. Right. When you have the cast of this caliber, I am truly genuinely surprised that it did not do better. But I think because it was perceived as a genre film, and I think that was the problem. Is it was seen as science fiction, which wasn't really popular in the mid-90s.
What are you talking about? Like we had the Terminators and almost anything that James Cameron was doing was science fiction at that point.
That's
in
right,
time.
but it was all James Cameron. And
In fact, this movie at one point they wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger in the lead. Oh, thank God that didn't happen.
and then Andy
yes.
Garcia.
And Andy, the list is
The list
immense.
is huge.
Yeah.
And
But
it's
Bill Paxton at one point.
there was only like 2 or 3 that I could actually see in the role, and they were none of them were like big actors. But that's because I'm comparing him to Ray Fiennes in this.
That's the challenge. But yeah, no, what I mean is I think that there's like maybe it was sci-fi overload or genre film overload because we had Free Jack and all of
True.
these sort of lesser known directors doing science fiction and there's so much
Virtuosity.
direct video science fiction going on
Yeah,
at that
and a
time
lot of them weren't of really great quality.
Exactly.
Like they were okay. Virtuosity and as you said, and Free Jack, they're entertaining, but they weren't of a great quality. And I'd even say Existenz to a certain extent would group in with the similar quality
Johnny
and themes.
Mnemonic.
Yeah.
Johnny
Yep.
Mnemonic, and they're all kind of mid-level genre
Yeah.
films.
They're
Yes.
renters. They were renters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of audiences saw Strange Days as that type of film as well.
Yeah.
without realizing that it was far, far more than just a genre film.
It was, yeah, and I think you're right. Like, it was a mismarketing because I remember kind of seeing this and thinking, "Oh, this is not what I thought this movie was at all." I was kind of surprised by it.
I mean, it's noir. It's neo-noir.
Yeah.
It's very much a classic whodunit detective story wrapped in a near future setting. It's kind of interesting to see where they were thinking the future was going at that point,
Because
based
they were
from
kinda
1995. There are only 4. Well, I mean, the virtual reality is only kicking in now.
They're a little ahead of it because of
Yeah.
the timeline they'd set for themselves.
Yeah.
but I mean, they realistically knew that they weren't going to have the squid system or virtual reality.
Sure.
In 4 years, they
Yeah.
knew that.
Yeah.
but I think that
We're
they-
so much closer to that now with
yeah.
Google Glass, although that technology didn't really take off either.
I will say what
Oculus Rift, though.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, mixed reality stuff is definitely on the rise.
Yeah.
what they didn't know, which is what happened in a lot of movies at around this time frame, was every movie thought mini discs were going to be huge. This is one of those movies.
Yes.
Yeah, mini discs barely got off the ground before they
Yeah.
were a dead technology.
In and out. That's it.
Yeah, the Sony mini discs.
Yeah, that's because digital players came out so quickly after the mini discs came out, right?
Yeah, digital formats really made that.
I don't know anybody that actually bought a mini disc.
Although, if you're going to deal in illegal memories like this does as a commodity of some sort, I guess, what format would you do it on now? Like SDs? You can hide them under your fingernails or something?
Maybe.
Why not?
Mini SDs?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't put it up to the cloud, too easily hacked.
Yeah, you'd have to have a
No,
hard.
it would have to be a
version.
physical storage
Yeah.
device.
How
Yeah.
about that?
Dark
And
web? Dark web.
Dark
I would
web.
say encrypted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like you say, anything can be hacked, though.
That's true.
Ooh, that could be something. It's a hacking somebody's squid system.
Well, they kind of do that in the movie when they take
Yeah.
out Tick, right?
Yeah.
And Gant.
Well, the squid is essentially a memory hack.
It's a Bluetooth headset.
It's a Bluetooth headset.
It's a wireless headset that taps directly into your neural system. Right?
Well, fuck, I'm not going to use Bluetooth now.
No.
Never used Bluetooth.
That's there's some thoughts I don't want getting out there.
I know.
Yeah,
So
I mean-
much in your own head, you're like, no, nobody must ever know this.
I know exactly. Go
You mean you listened to the telemarketer and then hung up? That's just evil, dude.
I do that all the time.
I do it all the
So
time.
do
Yeah.
I ask them questions. Tell me more.
I just want to see how good they are at their job.
Yeah. If I feel at all tempted, they've done a good job. I never
I've
actually.
never felt tempted.
I said at all tempted. There's a little. There's sometimes a little temptation.
No, never.
I've never gotten to the point where I would say, yeah, sure. But if they're doing really good at, and you're like, they're good at their job, mate. No.
Yeah, especially if they say we're being recorded.
Like, no.
I'm like, he's good at his job. Not good enough to get me to do it, but he's good at his job. Put that on the recording. Give
Yeah, there you
him a
go.
raise.
But
Exactly.
if Lenny were trying to sell you something, you might, as a telemarketer, you might buy into it. That guy was a
Oh,
salesman.
he was good.
He was really
It was
good.
excellent.
Yeah.
I love seeing
for Gab.
Ray Fiennes as a slimy hustler. I really do.
Oh yeah.
I've never quite seen him in this kind of role since.
No, and I was actually kind of disappointed because I kind of liked this iteration of Ray Fiennes, where he's kind of a really smart everyman. I had a few issues with his character, but for the most part, I just loved seeing him on screen because there was this cowardliness about him that I really liked. Even though he was a former cop, there was still this reluctance to engage.
It was the whole keep your head down so you can keep your business going.
Yeah.
That's, I bought into that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the physical confrontation, the points where there's physical confrontation that kind of broke my vision of him a little bit because as a former cop, you would think that he would be comfortable with physical confrontation, but he wasn't. Even at the end, it was something he was very reluctant to do, and that may be why one of the reasons he was never a cop because they never explained that why he's not a cop anymore because they never explained.
There's a
he
lot
gets
of
kicked off, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, but they never explain why.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of absent characterization. I mean, this movie clocks in at almost 2.5 hours already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's long.
So maybe it's just scrapped for time, but I find there's a lot of character missing, and we're going to discuss that right after the trailer.
Have you ever jacked in? Have you ever wired tripped?
Ready?
This is not like TV, only better. This is life. It's a piece of somebody's life. It's about the stuff that you can't have, right? The forbidden fruit, straight from the cerebral cortex. I mean, you're there, you're doing it, you're feeling it. Are you beginning to see the possibilities here? I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man.
This got something to do with the water. Sooner or later, it washes up on your beach.
Fan mail from some flounder?
It's the dark end of the street. How do you like it now?
He records it all. Everything.
And gives it to you.
Why me?
There's more to this whole thing than you think.
Give us the tape right now!
You don't know how high up the food chain this thing goes.
Do you know what this tape could do if it got out? I see the world opening up and swallowing us all.
This is conspiracy paranoia.
The issue isn't whether you're paranoid, Lenny. The issue is whether you're paranoid enough.
No more games. Whatever's going on, you have to get out of here now. Get him out.
This tape is a lightning bolt from God. It can change things that need changing before we all go off the end of the road.
It'll be an all-out war, and you know it.
No! Well, maybe it's time for a war.
Come on, man, cheer up. World's gonna end in 10 minutes anyway.
That was Strange Days from 1995. It's hard to think that movie's like that old.
22
now,
years
22
old.
years old.
Yeah. We were youngsters then.
We were youngsters then.
Yeah.
And it pleased me when I watching it again, because it's probably been about 10 years since I actually watched it end to end, and I still really enjoyed it. It doesn't feel dated to me.
No, it doesn't. Like, I think the fashions hold up. The acting is certainly top notch. The writing's fairly strong. The characterization, not so much.
That would be that was one of the things that I would like to fix in a remake is fix that characterization with our key characters a lot more.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
This spoke to me as a 22-year-old man, like the young counterculture at the time,
and the music,
and it was pretty heavy into all that stuff back then, especially the music scene at the time.
Yeah, and just that whole thing. There's the millennium was going to be huge. Like that was that whole thing, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the commentary that was coming out at the time. I mean it's very obvious. A lot of the plot came from like the L.A. riots, from the Rodney King trial outcome, and just the tensions that were going on as they approached the millennium in society. There's so much uncertainty in the world.
Yeah, it is unfortunately still relevant.
Oh yeah, the tensions have looped right back around. This is exactly.
It is. It saddens me at how relevant this movie still is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, one thing that inspired this movie that I don't see in the movie, surprisingly, is apparently the Lorena Bobbitt case was also an inspiration for this movie somehow, and I'm not sure how. Like, did anybody else catch?
No.
Okay, so it wasn't just me who didn't see where.
I don't recall.
I didn't
any
read that.
penises being
Well,
severed at any
unless
point.
you're thinking of somebody who's supposed to be a friend that kneecaps you, I guess the best friend was the one that turned on Ray Fiennes' character.
I suppose
on Lenny, but
it's
I mean,
stretch.
that's a pretty big stretch.
I don't know how that
Very
could
big
be.
stretch, yeah.
I don't see it at all.
I don't see it at all,
Weird.
No.
but I wanted to bring it up because I did read that, and that it was one of the news articles that inspired Bigelow and Cameron to write the script.
That is baffling.
Yeah.
I think that
I wonder if some of that ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah. Or there may be something that ended up on the cutting room floor that didn't make it into
They're
the
like,
final
you know
cut.
what? Rodney King and racial tension, that's pretty good. We can stick with that.
What are the big themes in this movie? Reliance on technology is certainly one of them, and that's certainly relevant now more than ever. Getting lost in your technology and being addicted to technology, and that's the squid devices that of the memories that are being recorded and then sold on the black market.
There's that. There's obviously social and economic tensions. Right? I mean, you look and every in that movie there's crime rampant on the streets. There's
and a lot
police brutality is definitely a theme.
Yeah, police brutality is still relevant.
Even
I
more
think
so.
That's definitely one of the biggest themes in there, as one of the activists and also a major musical celebrity who would speak out against this kind of violence is also a victim of it.
Yeah.
And that drives a good hunk of the plot in this movie, at least one of the plots in this movie, one of the thousands of plot strings going on in this movie.
And actually, at this point in time, as well as like this reaction by police officers, if they're being filmed doing something pretty shady, which has been done now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you're right. There's a lot of like little plot strings, but the thing is, every single plot string informs the main plot. Like, there's none of them are wasted and none of them are unnecessary.
No. There are some I think are better developed than others.
Absolutely, yeah.
Along with the characters. The serial killer that's leaving the memory clips for Lenny, and we're assuming one of his clients, and that's the problem. What's the mystery is how do you track that down, because Lenny knows everybody, and the person trying to tie this all together, Iris, has also been murdered, and has left a recording for Lenny that reveals it all, but it's lost in his now towed car.
Which I love. I love how that comes back.
Yeah, it takes him a while to figure out where it is, and that I do love how it all comes back around. For sure.
And these cops could have. I think the towing was ultimately the best thing that happened to him and to everyone else, because that tape was literally safest in that towed car.
Yeah, well, and the potential of what the loss of Jericho 1, this rapper slash activist, and the tinderbox that it could have sparked within America at the time, that was already kind of under military law as well as the cops, and the thought that there might be a kill squad out there for anybody who speaks out against them.
Yeah.
Which proves to be more conspiracy than anything else.
Well, imagine if something like that would actually happen today.
Oh, chaos.
What if it turns out that it was actually the cops that murdered Tupac?
Right? Yeah.
There would be...
Or Biggie,
riots.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was also part of the inspiration.
Like yeah.
Although I don't know where that takes place in the timeline. All that seems so long ago now, but it seems to me that was about right time. It might be a little after, but...
I'm just thinking here.
No,
it would. I think Tupac passed right after, because I'm just trying to think of the timelines of my employment where it was when he passed away.
Well, they do initially, when they announce it on the news, say it was a rival artist.
Yeah.
And it totally reflected that. That story at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I didn't think to research it until right now.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless of when it occurred, it was either definitely soothsaying,
right?
Or it was just a really great coincidence, not a great coincidence, I guess. I don't want to say great coincidence because it's not great, because Tupac is probably one of the
it's an eerie coincidence
that I continually enjoy.
Yeah. It's an eerie coincidence.
Yes.
Well, some say he's still alive now that he's getting the Elvis sightings now. So, who knows? Enjoy your vacation, Tupac.
Exactly. You deserve it. Just take some time off.
I really do hope you're not dead. Shame to lose all that new music, but the one
and acting, he was a great actor.
He was definitely a great actor. There was a hint there. If you look at the timeline of that particular character, Jericho 1, he's actually part of the 27 Club, which I thought was interesting. A nice, and not a nice, but a musical nod nonetheless. One of those weird anomalies of musicians passing and at the age of 27. Obviously, they die at any age.
Yeah,
but that seems to be the one that everybody seems to make special note of as some sort of weird curse.
Great artists that died at the age of 27,
Yeah, For sure. Yeah, lots of great artists died past the age of 27.
Yes.
So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we kind of cling to the 27 club because some of the ones who die when they're a lot older, they've like fallen out of relevance and we don't really give a shit anymore. So we don't think we've lost this great talent.
Yeah. Well, at the age of 27, there's so much ahead of them and like what could have been, right?
Well,
Yeah,
it'd be
that's
like
also why we do
the
it.
peak of their career type thing, right, you know.
Yeah, but
Certainly.
when you see somebody go to the end of it and unpeak, that's when you don't notice it as much.
Yeah, every career ebbs and flows.
That's true. And then some ride their laurels.
Yeah.
We're speaking to you, Rolling Stones.
But, you know,
They have to ride something. They'll be in wheelchairs soon.
Yes.
David Bowie and Prince had a hell of a ride the whole way through. So.
Oh, David
Yeah.
Bowie, awesome.
And that's because he worked very hard to continue to be relevant when he did make music.
Yeah. Okay, good segue. Or good sidetrack, I guess.
Yeah.
Not so much a segue.
Back to Rat.
Back to Rat. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
The guests are doing it now.
Well, but this guest, of course, obviously...
He's in on the joke.
He's in on the joke, yes.
No, okay. One of the weaker parts of this movie is some of the characterization, and it's very frustrating when you have such great actors bringing in such strong performance in this movie, and yet there's so much background to these characters that I think is essential to the story that we don't get to see or even hear about, really. It's not even discussed in dialogue. You have two ex-cops, one's become a PI, and that's Max, and the other one, Lenny, is the memory dealer. The Magic Man.
Magic Man, yeah.
Magic Man.
You don't see a lot there. We don't know why he's really clinging to the memories of his time with Faith, and they've since broken up. We don't know why.
Yeah.
They kind of allude
hint.
to it, but they don't really out and out say, right? I mean, they allude that Gant kind of made her leave him in order to protect him, but they don't say why he has to be protected. Like what in his past has resulted in her needing to leave him to protect him.
Well, they're trying to drive him away because of this secret with Jericho 1. That's more what she's protecting, but he's been stalking her for quite some time, long before this little conspiracy kicks up.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. Is what was she protecting him from before?
Yeah, well,
because it wasn't just about Jericho 1.
I just assumed she left him for Gant to elevate her career. She's not a really great person.
That's kind of what I
Well-
assumed,
She's always
too.
struggling with
That's what I
her
got
love
from
for
it.
this guy.
Yeah, like I mean, and they do allude to it. Part of it is like she's with Gant because she left him. I think she hates herself as well. Like, I mean, they could have truly been in love, and when you don't like yourself, you don't feel you deserve it, so you'll self-destruct that.
They do say that she was a teenage prostitute who was given $20 blowjobs in back lanes, right? When Lenny found
When it found her, but then she seemed very healthy and like in a good place in those memories.
And I mean, and as we see her later performing and being with Gant, she's trying to scare Lenny off. It's like, it's too late for me. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, she's given up on herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It doesn't want to drag him down any further.
Yeah, it's almost like she feels she doesn't deserve him, but they never make that clear.
Yeah. And Lenny's going through his own self-destruction. I mean, he's not just dealing in these memories, but he's a bit of an addict himself. He's addicted to his own memories of better times rather than other people's. But
He's stuck. He's
He's
living
stuck
in the past.
yeah, and we do see later the results of these addictions. Granted, they're forced on people as to cover up a murder. Well, we don't have to kill him if we just make him brain dead.
Yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
not murder either, right?
And it's not murder.
Yeah, there's no dead body.
Yeah.
Just a vegetable.
They short-circuit the brain. Two other characters that don't really get developed are the two police officers. When you have two big actors, two, I guess, more up-and-coming, but have turned out to be great actors in their own right, Vincent D'Onofrio and William Fichtner.
Did you
Fichtner?
even get any dialogue in this movie?
Which is baffling, because this is after Pulp Fiction, isn't it?
Around the same time.
Right around the same time?
Yeah, and D'Onofrio would have been in Full Metal Jacket like 7 years before, like
Yeah.
in a very prominent role.
Yeah, I don't understand. I'm saying, some of it might have just been cut out. They might have had more for the cops, but they just because they wanted to focus on Lenny and
Well, and
Faith
it was already
and
running at
Maze.
2 hours and 13 minutes or 2 hours and 12 minutes. So
I can kind of see maybe why, but it's
That's
still
almost 220.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
credits.
long. I have this feeling that some of their stuff got cut to time.
Yeah.
But you know what?
For a 2 hour, 20-minute movie, this movie does not feel it at all. There's no point where I'm not engaged in this movie.
That's true, and I mean it's typical Cameron writing. I mean he writes long movies because he has a lot of stuff to fit into them.
Yeah, this movie is dense.
It is very dense. But, I mean, it's funny. Those two officers are important characters because they're catalysts, but the characters themselves aren't.
Right.
Right? I mean, it could be any two people committing that murder as long as they were cops. Right? So they didn't have to have a lot of character. They were two assholes who did something criminal and were trying to cover it up. So I don't know that they needed much more characterization, and that's why I cast the way I did when I did my casting, because it's a good start-out role for some young actors, but it doesn't need a lot. It doesn't need a lot of screen time.
No,
Right.
it doesn't really matter. It does, like, I mean, you get their motivation when you see the flashback of the memory and all that.
Yeah.
They just don't like what this guy's been saying about the LAPD.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to a very reactionary thing. I don't even think when they pulled him over at the time that was the plan. That's just, they got pissed off and shot him.
Because he was a dumbass
Executed.
and was mouthing off.
Yeah,
He was mouthing off,
He was
but
pretty mouthy.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing is, what did he have to
It doesn't
lose? He was-
excuse the behavior.
It's true, but what does he have to lose? He's a black guy who's been pulled over by the police. It can't get much worse.
Yeah, without
it can get worse. He got dead.
Yeah, but I mean, he was already in a shit show.
And they were
anyway.
pulled over without provocation, and I'm sure that was more to pester him than anything else. But it was the mouth that got him dead.
It escalated, right?
What
racist cop?
For sure.
Pulled over driving while black.
Yeah.
I don't know
Which
if
is
it
a
was
major crime, apparently.
Yeah, and of course him being outspoken to the police was also. I mean, this
Definitely a
what is
factor.
a brotherhood. You know, and they protect their own, and that was an extreme case of it.
What I need to know, what I was always confused by, is like, I mean, the one hooker having the set underneath her wig is part of how they get this clip. But I don't. Did they ever clarify exactly why she was taping for Gant?
Yeah. Because he thought Jericho 1 was going to be leaving his label.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I missed that bit.
Yeah,
I
they
was
do
trying
talk
to figure it
about
out.
his increasing addiction and paranoia because of wearing the headsets. He's just wiring all the time, and he was getting more and more paranoid. And he thought Jericho 1 was going to leave his label. So and they do talk about this technology originally being developed for the police as an alternative to wiretapping, and it just winds up on the black market.
Yeah.
And you can see where a former cop like Lenny would get his hands on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to a really great bit is with the Japanese businessman. And I would keep this because it was fucking funny.
Yeah.
When he's asked, do you wire? He's like, latest technology, right? And it's like this fancy dancy, like little mini player. And like, I
They're
love
just
that.
geeking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
and then
tech out of Japan there and check it out. This is what I
He does kind of go away. They drop him off at the club, and when Angela Bassett's character comes back, Mace comes back for him, and Lenny's like, "You came back for me," and then we never see that guy again.
Yeah, we don't know what happened to him.
Like, I'm sure she lost her car. I'm sure her job was done at that point.
Well, when the limo finally got trashed, I'm sure that was the end of her job for sure. Either way, right?
Yeah, but it ended up at the bottom of the bay. I'm pretty sure. You go back to the boss, say, "Hey, you got another car for me?"
Yeah, I was driving a car without a client, and I got attacked.
Because I mean, that's a decked out car with bullet resistant windows, which I thought was a funny joke. Resistant?
What happened to bulletproof?
Yeah, there were a lot of great little humorous nods in this movie without taking it too far into humor.
Yeah.
Right?
Just enough to lighten a fairly dark movie.
Yeah, exactly. But and that's the only reason that the businessman was there, was to lighten the mood a little bit and to set up a dynamic between Mace and Lenny, because this is really the first time he spent any time with them, and because they want to establish that right off the bat that Mace has feelings for Lenny that he's not aware of.
Yeah.
Right, because of his fixation on the past. That he doesn't realize that there's somebody else who cares about him a lot.
Yeah.
That's one of the ongoing plots. I mean, let's start just tagging all the main strings in this movie.
Yes.
Okay, so
you've got a Venn diagram.
I know.
That's right. So if
We
Amy's
need
at
to
home,
have the strings like in the movie where the insane person's trying to find all the connections.
That's right.
so we got Lenny who's dealing in these memories. He's hiring all sorts of people to get these memory clips. So hookers, male hookers, female hookers, and all sorts of people, just from the sexual to the mundane, because you never know what a client's going to want to do. The only thing he doesn't deal in
is snuff. Or blackjack.
Blackjack.
They had all sorts of cool jargon that was specifically developed for this movie, but it's not so jargony that you don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They do associate.
But it would make
way.
sense. You're going to have jargon if
Sure.
you're dealing in
In the
something
far-flung
illegal.
future of 1999, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, an illegal substance like drugs all have like kind of code
Sure.
names.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense. So that was something he didn't deal with. And so now you've got Iris trying to get to him to drop off this world-shattering information video thing. You've got his fixation on his ex. You've got his friendship with Mace, which is a budding relationship that's not being returned, and he's certainly taking advantage of that relationship. Let's see, he's got the PI best friend who's actually fucking his ex without his knowledge.
Or anybody else's.
And spoilers, it's also killing people.
Yeah.
Why? I'm not sure.
Well, he did it because he said he was hired by Gant to take care of the hooker and then of Faith. So he took the job because he knew he'd just hire somebody else. So he took the job and he was fine with killing Iris, but he didn't want Faith killed. So that's why he took that job.
Why he was taunting Lenny with it, I don't know.
Well, he wanted a scapegoat.
Yeah, he was sitting
That's right.
all the way along.
That's right. There was a setup, and they do talk about how it was all going to be make Lenny the patsy.
Yeah, and him having the discs of the murders further implicated him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he's been seen in public having altercations with Gant all over the place.
Yeah, no, it was a beautiful setup. The only mistake he made was gloating.
Yeah. You've got the really big plot line of the death of Jericho 1, covering it up by the label because it could take down the music label of Gant. It also could, there's a big debate about sparking
A riot.
let alone maybe even a civil war within the United States of this very outspoken public figure and beloved public figure. And the implications of his death and the cover-up.
And that's really what you think the story is.
Yeah.
For the longest time, that's what you think the story is.
Yeah.
Even though that's not the trip Lenny's on for a good long while. It sits in the background for quite a while. And you're wondering,
from the very first 5 minutes of the
and
film.
you're wondering how it's all going to
Yeah.
come back around.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like it almost feels like it's a background story up until it's not.
Until it's not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I was watching with Val, one of the things she said through this movie is, I'm not sure what the story is, right? Because there's so much going on, and she's like, I don't know what the point of the movie is yet, because you don't really find out until about an hour and 45 minutes into the film.
No, and that's a great thing about
Yeah.
the movie is that you're not sure what's going on until everything just kind of comes together.
Yeah,
And that's
everything
what makes it
slowly-
very much a noir film rather
then
than
you
a
get
science
that.
fiction or an action film. Yeah.
Yeah, then you get that moment, you know?
And then you get one more because at the end game there, because you think it's all about Jericho 1, when really it's about one petty man's selfish shit.
Yeah.
And I love how they take something really big and make it really small. Like they make it really, really small and petty. And it works so well for me. It's like, oh, that was just brilliant.
Because sometimes you're like, there's bigger stuff at play here, and that's fine. But in some pathetic man's own little life, that's what he wants.
Yeah. And he's the one who caused all of this, essentially. Right? This one guy, his paranoia and his need to sort of protect himself caused all this stuff to happen. And it's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
His ego killed a ton of people.
Yeah. I love the way that worked.
All right, well, I think we got that bit sorted out.
Oh, we missed one important plot point. The whole Y2K thing.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Because that is a very much a focus of the whole story.
Yes.
Is that lead up to 2000.
And also our biggest hurdle to get over as well.
And Max, for part of the movie, like he says a lot of these throwaway lines, but I think he honestly believes that the world was going to end.
Yeah.
So he didn't
Well,
have anything to lose.
That's the way it was then. We all thought that the world was going to end, it was going to hit midnight.
The bug was going to get
bug.
loose. The Y2K bug.
Planes were
Remember
going to
that?
fly it.
Yes, because
fall
we
out
only
of
had
the
2-digit
sky.
dates.
Yep.
Yeah. We'd be in perpetual darkness because electricity would stop working.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a huge apocalypse, and then nothing.
Yeah. It's like the biggest letdown ever.
It was the most disappointing apocalypse.
It was a really disappointing apocalypse.
People were
know.
buying stuff and preparing. It was insane.
No, we were preparing. We were over at Texas place.
Yeah, we were drinking our faces off.
Yep.
I was at home. I got my Christmas kiss from the dog.
That was, like, if there was going to be any New Year's Eve party that was going to be the big rocker, you do the one that is probably going to be the end of the world one.
Well,
If you believe that.
If we did, I don't think any of us did.
No.
Did we?
we had a
No.
party like it was 1999.
Nice.
Oh, I miss Tyler. Bad jokes.
Yeah, I remember when that was a big song. You're like, wow, party like it's 1999. Now you're like, I remember that party.
I do remember
We do remember that
good
party. It was a
party.
good party.
Actually, I don't remember too much of the party, to be honest.
My party was shit.
Oh,
I didn't know you yet. You would have been at that party otherwise.
That would have been nice.
Yeah, no, we didn't know you yet.
Nope.
Hell, I barely knew you guys at that time.
Well, yeah. Well, you would have known. You knew Jay for a while, but I had just come home from living overseas, so
That's right.
underseas,
You were under the sea?
seas.
on the sea, on the sea. There we go.
Under the sea.
I was never undersea.
Screw that man.
Well, not unless it was on purpose, like for swimming. But yes, no. I just come back and we were just getting to know each other.
Actually, I think that might have been one of the first parties we went to.
That was probably the first party that we went to together. We'd hung out and had gone and had beers and stuff, but that was the first text party because I came back in the summer of 1999.
Ain't no party like a text party.
We should write that song.
Yes, we should.
Yeah. Even though he doesn't have them anymore, but
Well, no. He went and had kids and got boring.
and older. I don't think even Tex can party the way he used to. So
Yeah, let's disparage man for actually growing up.
yes,
How dare he?
yeah, how
became
dare you
adults.
wreck our fun times?
Damn it.
All getting matured and shit.
He's supposed to live in the past like Lenny. Back on track.
There we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's start rethinking this a little bit because this is a really strong movie and it's going to be a bit difficult. Thankfully, the themes are probably more relevant than not, but the one big hurdle is its setting. We can't really do 1999 again.
Well,
really
it doesn't
need
have
to.
to be. It doesn't have to be 2000 or a millennium,
No.
right? I mean, it just has to be a key. It doesn't even have to be a key New Year's.
No.
I mean, you could do 2020, 2025.
I like the
It actually
idea.
doesn't matter the day.
Yeah.
It could just be an
No.
ordinary day.
But I like the idea of it being around uncertainty and what could potentially happen. Like, I don't know, a presidential election, maybe?
Perfect.
Oh,
What, in 3 years, maybe?
maybe?
2020?
Maybe?
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can
we
add
already know
in
what's going to happen in that one.
and you can add in political undertones where it's part of the cover up would be is like, look, we can't afford to have something bad happen.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be good.
that would totally work. I mean, and it doesn't have to add. It wouldn't add a lot extra to the story. A little bit of dialogue would suggest exactly what's
Well,
happening. Right?
what if it was an outspoken counter candidate that might be a good candidate that gets murdered?
Ooh.
Maybe.
I don't know if I'd want to mess with that. I
Well,
think that the racial tensions are really important in
You'd
this
start
movie.
getting into like a political
Yeah.
thriller type thing.
Yeah, unless he was a rapper running for office, that would work for me.
Yeah. I mean,
Supporting a Democratic
Yeah.
Well, there's a certain
candidate.
There's a certain wrestler who wants to.
I think
The
part.
Rock.
Yeah. True. I remember that. He wouldn't be. I don't know.
I think he'd be better than Trump, but
Everybody's
Absolutely.
A monkey would be better than Trump.
A turd on a piece
Hillary
of string
wouldn't
would be
have been-
better than Trump. But I think part of that is the celebrity of it all makes more sense.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people would care. It's weird. Politicians maybe not so much, but people would super care about a celebrity.
Well, maybe instead of the racial tones, I mean, that's still relevant, but
Oh, I
maybe
say we
it's a
keep that.
maybe it's a black female running as well, because there's certainly other subjects
sure.
popular in the press at the moment, and shame on all of you men in Hollywood that have done bad things.
Yes.
yeah.
It's like your job is to make movies. Why are you doing this other stuff? As Samantha Bee says, there's tons of stuff I don't do every day.
Exactly.
I don't know if you're familiar with this, guys. I just have to confess something. I'm in the midst of the biggest non-mass murder in history.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Excellent.
I get up every day and don't kill people.
That's right.
How
I
do you
masturbate. I don't invite
know,
people.
Yeah.
I found something interesting
Gee.
online there.
Whatever happened to doing it in private in the dark? Feeling lonely and ashamed.
And I mean, if you have somebody there like who truly wants to be there, then go for it. Like, I mean, if you find
If
that
it is
person,
How
truly
do you
mutual.
know?
yeah, if it's truly mutual and that's their king,
And they you don't
you
work with
know?
them in any way.
she suggests it. That could be how you know.
There you go.
Well, why would I have to wait? Come on.
Some people have that kink. I'm just saying.
And I mean, there's certainly tensions within our authorities as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
with police brutality is more public than ever before. I don't know if it's happening more often or it's just the case that there's just more eyes out there to
I think
We
bring
have
it out.
real
Probably
life
happening
cases.
less, but
Yeah.
being reported more, which is
Makes it seem like it's happening more frequently.
yeah, we just
Yeah, well,
there's
no,
just
it's a
more
good
eyes
thing
out
that
there
it gets
now.
reported more.
It was-
you know?
And that's, again, the technology. Certainly the themes of technology and the reliance on it is relevant here, and there's good and bad that is in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, the truth wouldn't have come out if Iris hadn't have been wired. And the taunting wouldn't have happened if Max hadn't been wired as well with the serial killer aspect of it.
Yeah.
So there's good and bad aspects to it.
And Lenny wouldn't be so obsessed with the past if he didn't have access to those memories.
Sure.
Electronically.
Well, I don't know how many people who've gone through a breakup and just sit and stare at old photos. It's really kind of the same thing.
It's sort of, but I mean, you're reliving moments. You're immersed in it.
Yeah.
If you don't have access to that, those memories do fade.
And that's an important
helps.
aspect of it. You're not just casually watching with the disconnect. You're feeling it as well as seeing it. You are literally experiencing
Sensations.
those moments.
It is as close to the real thing as you can possibly get.
without doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he's selling like you want to rob a convenience store. He's selling that moment without you ever getting your hands dirty. You want to experience having sex with that hot supermodel or whatever. Well, he'll provide that, and you never put your wedding ring at risk.
Yeah, you never tarnish your wedding ring.
Yeah, it's a
No,
good line.
exactly. And
There-
there's a certain craving. There-
Yeah.
Well,
I can see the
fact
craving
that
of
you
this
can-
emotion.
You can go and do all these things. Like, I mean, hey, look at me. I'm a fat guy. I would love to do some of that parkour running.
well,
Hook me
Right.
up with one of those. That'd be awesome.
the guy in the
I don't have to do
wheelchair, he brings him
Yeah.
a
It was
thing of a guy
beautiful
running.
moment. It was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
like he's just gliding along by the sea.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah, and the therapeutic aspects of something like this as well. Like, there are pros and cons, and the misuse of it can lead to bad things as well. But, I mean, that was such an important moment for this guy who had lost his legs.
And for Lenny, because it shows who Lenny really is. That
Deep down, Lenny is actually a decent guy.
He's a decent guy and cares about the people who he considers friends.
Yeah.
And
That's why he doesn't deal in the really dark shit.
Yeah.
No. And you also see that when we flash back to when Maze's husband gets
Yes.
arrested
Yeah.
and shows that Lenny's actually a good guy and he's looking after the kid while this is all going on.
Back when he was still a cop, he was one of the
Yeah.
things that one of the cases he attended. And and again, it shows that Lenny has two sides. He's got the facade he shows the rest of the world, and then he's got this private side that he shares with people that he in small doses.
Yeah.
But that moment where he didn't wait for the thank you or anything like that. When the guy with his legs missing came out of his memory, he looked for Lenny to say thank you, and Lenny was already gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that too is Lenny's like, I'm doing something nice. I don't want to be thanked for it because I think I'm a piece of shit.
Lenny does have a very low opinion of himself.
Yeah, a little bit of self-loathing there.
A lot of people in this movie do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only one who
Just about-
doesn't is Max.
Yeah, no, Max has too much. He's a bit narcissistic and
Yeah.
too self-involved.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, well, turns out to be a serial killer,
Yeah.
so...
So he's obviously sociopathic to a degree. And Mace, she has a pretty good
She has a
sense of
pretty
who
healthy
she
sense,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a very healthy person,
Yeah.
despite
Just
some of the
doesn't know
things that have happened in her life.
That's right.
That they hint at.
Yeah, the only thing that's not healthy about her is her love for Lenny, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the way Lenny treats her and basically uses her for his own gains, and that's it.
I know, but who hasn't been caught up in that dynamic?
Yeah, and I think,
even if you're a smart, intelligent person,
well,
you've been caught
literally,
up.
May's got friend zoned by Lenny.
yeah, she totally got friend zoned, and she was kind of hanging around in the hopes that he'd finally stop living in the past. And I mean, in the end, yes, he does.
But throughout the movie, that's what she kept telling him,
Yeah.
is that he needs to stop living in the past.
Yeah, and her abhorrence of wiring was really important to the plot
Yes.
Absolutely.
in a lot of ways, because she doesn't understand it. She doesn't understand the technology, and that all sort of feeds into to filling in some holes. Actually, as they explain it to her, they explain it to us too.
Can understand her fear because in several times they show people who you can like fry your brain on this. It's like a drug. Like you can get seriously addicted to it and it can fry your brain. So I can see why you'd be scared of it.
Yeah, exactly. And she doesn't want anything to do with anything that alters your mind. And I think and that's maybe something that was missing in her backstory is what did her husband get arrested for? Why is he in prison?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't
And
find out.
I would think that you would fill that in with with an explanation that would sort of explain her abhorrence of wiring and other mind-altering substances, right? Because maybe he was a drug dealer, or maybe he was a wire dealer, or a wirehead, right? So just to give her that extra motivation for not being interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for Lenny knowing full well that she doesn't like it because he's aware
Oh, yeah.
that she disapproves.
Yeah, and he respects it as long as it doesn't impact his business. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, the only time she winds up doing it is when it's so relevant, so important that he can't explain it.
Yeah.
That's another reason why that whole Japanese businessman thing was so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To explain as to why she hated it.
Yeah, and to show how much she hated it.
Yeah.
And then when you go to the flashback, it would explain her hatred of it, right?
Yeah.
It seems like a throwaway scene, but it's not. That scene actually plays to a few things. Right?
Yeah, it's actually quite important to the whole narrative of the movie.
Yeah.
And like you say, when you're watching it, you think it's just kind of a throwaway scene.
At first, yeah. And
These are two friends having a fight.
Yeah.
And then you realize.
Yeah. And I mean, you realize way late. I mean, until she actually spells it out, you don't really realize how much she cares for him. Unless you're really paying attention. There's a couple times there where she sort of looks at him in a certain way, and you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. But they're really quick, and if you're not watching closely, you miss them.
It's an unrequited love triangle.
Yeah, really, quite literally.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we going to change here? How are we going to change this movie to make it update this thing? I mean, the casting is so strong, the writing is so strong. How are we going to twist this around and still make it a good movie and modernize this? Well, any thoughts?
I know, it's a tough
This
one.
one's a toughie.
It is a tough one, because, I mean, you don't have to change a lot to make
No.
it... To make
I mean, you can make the technology appear more familiar. We're getting so much closer to it. I mean, the Google Glass, even though that technology didn't take off. And that's the thing about technology. It's anticipating what people want, and walking around with this big distraction over your eyes obviously isn't.
No.
And VR is not taking off like people thought. It's not going to be the future of gaming.
It's because it's too expensive.
Well,
Yeah, and maybe it's because of the cost prohibitiveness of it.
you were mentioning hacking before, and I think there might be a plot line there, like as to how this information gets obtained.
Well, I mean, but that's
I don't know.
a subtle change, but I think we could go with that. I mean, you don't necessarily need
lose so
Lenny.
much.
You don't necessarily need Lenny out there selling so much as pitching, and because you could easily have this sitting on the dark web, drop your Bitcoin in there, and buy your memories.
But if you do that, we lose some really great bits. The physical transfer of that particular memory from Iris to Lenny gets lost.
Yeah,
which is really critical.
Yeah, and
No,
there's
like,
a
I think-
safety in that physical handoff.
Yeah.
See, I think it could still be a physical, physical object, a physical thing that you have to do in, but I don't know, like if you could hack somebody's own device.
That's where I.
Well, we live in a very much a already Wi-Fi society, so
right,
Wi-Fi,
and
Bluetooth,
exactly.
everything's hackable.
So when Tick gets his brain fried, I see that being your hacking moment. right? Because they've hacked his device to create that
to overload.
right? To lobotomize him essentially.
Yeah.
Right? And then again with Gant later on, right? So I think there's your sort of hacking moment without over complicating the plot any further, because it is complicated. I think really the only substantial changes that need to be made are the character development, right?
I mean, certainly. I mean, I want to see why Lenny isn't on the Force anymore. I want to see why Max isn't on the Force anymore. Were they partners at one point?
What prompted Mace to become a bodyguard? Because she was a waitress.
Yeah.
Right? And then she becomes
She's a fucking badass. I love
Awesome.
her.
I love her
I
in
think
that-
it was
this
through
movie.
through Lenny. I think through their relationship, she sort of decided, I'm going to take control of things.
Which would be one of the reasons that she falls in love with him, because when she needed him to be there and strong for her, he was
yeah.
right? But that's missing. And that would be a great thing to add. And I mean, this story can be tightened up somewhat.
Yeah,
that
we need
first
to-
hour
we
is
certainly-
really kind of sloppy.
And I need to see like the breakup with Faith.
Yeah.
Like, what was that?
Yeah, right. And these don't have to be long scenes.
No.
Right. I mean, take away that 8-minute memory scene, shorten it down to about 1.5 minutes,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
and you get a whole bunch of screen time that we can use to fill in other holes.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same with the very opening scene with the convenience store robbery, or the restaurant robbery. It doesn't have to be 4 minutes or 5 minutes like it was. It could be shorter. Right? A lot of these memory scenes were really cool at the time, but really don't need to be as long as they are.
Yeah. And I mean, now the technology to do that first person is a lot easier. The digital cameras have caught up. I mean, not a lot of people are using film anymore, so you don't have to have this weird rig for 35 millimeter anymore. The guy who did Hardcore Henry really perfected this kind of first person, just this device attached to a person's chin. So that'll take care of itself there.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, you can still include those scenes, but again, tighten them up a little bit. We don't need. I mean, that movie's probably got about 25 minutes of first person stuff.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Right. And
That was, that's still pretty difficult. I mean, there's some times when they're looking around in a 360 direction. They got to be very clever and in their how they're moving.
They had
that
to light
camera.
it a new way.
The lighting has to be well above, and you can't see the poles and stuff. So everything's got to be dropped down for the lighting.
One of the best scenes, I actually think, and I still don't know how they did it, was when you're doing the first person view from Lenny there, and he was with Faith there,
and he looks in the mirror.
Looks right in the mirror.
Yeah.
That was so well done.
It was so well done.
It was seamless.
I loved it. And then you see him kind of turn, like you see them both in the mirror, and then he turns to her face, and you see the residual amount of them in the mirror. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that mirror was a green screen, but and then they inserted
but I love
that,
the way they did it.
that shot. But
It still
the
looked
timing
really
of that, it had to be very specific.
Yeah, but and I said, they have to be in there. No, don't get me wrong. They definitely have to be in there. But like I said, they don't need to be as lengthy as they were, because like I said, they spent a lot of money and time coming up with a way to shoot that. So of course they want to include lots of it. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's a few times where they show the same one multiple times.
Yeah, which isn't really necessary anymore. Those are generally audience memory prompts. Oh, remember when we showed you this?
Yes.
We don't want you to forget this because that was important.
Let's go back, everybody.
And anybody who's watching this movie and enjoying it, they don't need prompts. Yeah.
No.
You can do this. Do what they did with Mace when she watches the murder of Jericho 1. Right? He says you have to see it.
That was probably my favorite bit because we'd seen so much memory stuff, and instead of us seeing what Lenny's doing, we're experiencing her moment watching her son interact with her family in this New Year's Eve moment, and how much fun he's having, and a good moment while something really bad is happening in Lenny's head.
Yes.
I mean, eventually we do see what that was, but we see that emotional impact from Lenny afterwards, and we see it in real time with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Mace, and that actually punctuates that scene so much more because we've already seen Lenny react heavily to so much
Yes.
in this movie that we needed to see somebody who's so level-headed react.
Yeah.
And it just punctuates that scene.
And I love that moment between them because Lenny understands. He's like, no, you have to see it. And he's like, I apologize. This shouldn't be the first thing you have to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just, it really kind of gets, I get more of their relationship from that bit.
You really do, because you finally realize that he does care about her, right? Like you finally realize that he does feel more for her than just this convenience that he uses to get him around when he loses his car or whatever the case may be, right?
I think he does. He just has so much trouble showing it, and in this moment, he sort of does.
Yeah.
I mean, with how dense this movie is, I mean, part of me thinks this would have made, like, a great event series, like a 12-episode HBO thing, where you can actually take your time to develop it and show him on the force and why he loses that. And there's when you can actually spend all that time and it's still all this information is really engaging.
Yeah, you can spend like an entire episode on just one thread.
Yeah.
And not even bring them all together till the 10th or 11th episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being an event series. It wouldn't be the first time that we've taken a remake and gone, no, it needs to be an event series.
Yeah. Now, I mean, we always develop this with film in mind, but I think this would be great for television, especially with the new formats that we're getting in direct delivery and HBO, and we're just getting so much more film quality television now, and in some cases film that is being developed for Netflix or whoever that still has that big screen quality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's delivery's definitely changing, so that could still be on the table, because this is all about looking in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is also us looking in the future, and not to say that that's what we're going to do, but I mean, I think that would support all these ideas we want expanded on, because it's not. I think it's a case of we all enjoy this movie. We're not getting enough of it at 2.5 hours. We're not getting enough of it.
What's interesting is, sorry, this occurred to me. When they're talking about doing the future and how hard it is to do the future, what they've really done a good job with is Black Mirror, where it's this sort of not so distant future. It's close enough to what we have, but being slightly more advanced, you can usually get away with a lot more because you're not trying to predict far ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's why this movie works so well in '95 and still works well, is because it was so close to what we already knew. The only science fiction aspect was the squid devices.
Yes.
But I think that's the thing too. Like in '95, I can remember people being like, "Oh crap, another future movie where they're getting it wrong." It wasn't a big thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's why this one works so great in retrospect as well, is because we get that conceit now. It's now a thing.
Yeah, I mean, think of Blade Runner if it was only like 5 years away. That's kind of what this movie was. It has a lot of that quality too.
And when I was watching, I'm like, it even has like the same kind of look. As Blade Runner, right? It's got the weird, the interesting lighting and the interesting people. Like, it does have a very Blade Runner feel to it, right?
But a lot of those fashions and those styles and those people, I'm like, yeah, no, I saw those. I knew those.
I still do.
Yeah,
I love those.
And I mean, it led for some great lines. Like when Max finally revealed he's colorblind, he's like, "Yeah, how could you think I could stand your ties?"
Yeah.
Another great moment of levity in a quite a tense moment in the film, right?
Yeah, his shirts and ties were something else.
That was part of his character, right?
It was.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of his way of sort of covering up his own feelings of inadequacy and self-loathing, as Trisha put it. He doesn't really like himself very much.
Yeah, I love the idea when he was getting dressed and he had a tie and he's like, "Shit." And Mace goes,
They're trying to escape.
What? Yeah, what? There's no blue in this tie. It literally has every other color on the planet on the tie, but there is no blue.
Nope.
Tie does not go with these pants.
Yeah, I love how they're escaping and he's concerned about the tie he's chosen.
But he's a salesman.
He's supposed to look slick.
Salesmen are concerned about the way they look, the way they present themselves.
Yeah. Well, I do like the literal knife in the back that his best friend gave him.
Yes.
Yeah.
That also winds up saving his ass.
Yeah.
When Max is hanging out that window by his tie, and he pulls that knife out of his back to cut that tie. I'm like, wow, what awesome intensity, and what a great metaphor at the same time.
Exactly, and it talks to how tight the script is in one sense, because the ties were a running joke all the way through the movie.
Yeah.
And there was a reason for it. It wasn't just to make fun of Lenny. It actually served a purpose at the end of the movie.
It ties it all together.
Ha, ha, ha.
Sorry, it's my turn.
I see what you did there.
Why is everybody getting the bad puns except me today?
I don't know. We keep setting you up.
But that's okay. I'll it's a new year, and other people are allowed the bad puns.
Okay.
Okay.
Either that or I'm just a terrible
We'll leave you
influence
the
on
really-
both of you.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
All right, well, let's get into some recasting because I think we've all agreed that we like to keep the plot of this film as tight as possible and just see more of these characters and what motivates them and what's gotten them there. And maybe a miniseries or an event series is a way to do that. God knows, I mean, I would love this as an ongoing series because I'd like to see what happens after with Lenny and what happened before, and there's so much more there, and maybe
the characters are all fun characters to watch.
They're
so good.
and the stuff with the commissioner.
Yes,
you know, there's this antagonistic thing that Lenny has with his former boss, but an immense amount of respect as well.
Oh yeah, he knows this is the guy that
and
can't
he's
be
an
bought.
he's an honest cop, but he's a dick, but he's honest.
Yeah, I love that first interaction with him where he says, "I don't have to call you sir anymore." Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole point, though. Like, I think you can get a lot of complexity there. Like, he's the most honest man, but he's a dick. But kind of like, well, when you're surrounded by lying assholes, you kind of have to be a dick to be the good guy.
Yeah, and that's something that you could have expanded upon in Lenny's backstory is why he has this respect for the commissioner, but also this hatred for him.
Well, yeah, because what did Lenny do that the commissioner felt should cost him his career?
Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can also dig into like Max and Lenny's backstory as well.
Yeah.
And you know what? I would love to see the action that Lenny took that cost him his career have something to do with faith.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it just ties together all the sacrifices he's made for this woman who really is not good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, she's definitely caustic.
Well, they're both bad for each other. Like, they both have a lot of problems. Like, they both don't like each other. Like, they both don't like themselves.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that those memory scenes show that was the only time that they did like themselves was when they were together.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, creates a whole dynamic there. Right. Is what he sacrificed to be with her, and then what happens to him when that sacrifice ends up not paying off.
Yeah. Juliette Lewis is really exposed in this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
not that I'm complaining, but
there was a lot of like, why? And it does
Didn't
not.
need to.
This doesn't feel like a Kathryn Bigelow choice. Like,
no.
When she's the memory moment, even when they're just out skating and she's in the tiny bikini pant.
Yeah, I was watching that going, what? I literally wrote, what's up with her outfit? You can't rollerblade
and
in
a
that.
sweater.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
And leggings.
And leggings. It was very odd. And later on, she's wearing like chainmail. Her nipples are exposed. Like, we see her nipples even when she's wearing a top all the time. Like, she must be just constantly cold.
I mean, we can dig into that, but I mean, I kind of got the impression that like they were talking about she used to be a prostitute, so like her body, she's just used her body her whole. So it's just a thing to her.
Yeah,
it's literally
maybe,
a suit she wears.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that important to the narrative of the movie.
No,
I
mean,
no, it isn't.
Actually, it had no
complaining, but I could have done with.
But
that.
I think they could have used it like for like the characterization. This is the suit I wear. That's it.
Yeah, she has no body modesty. She's not even aware of her body anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and that would be a whole new thing too.
Yeah, I think that's more the case. That I think that's what they're trying to convey is that she's just not aware of her body because of who she was.
Mm-hmm.
It's been used.
It's a product.
It's
just a product.
Exactly.
The rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper.
I know, right?
That's interesting. Yeah. It's an interesting thought. Cool. Well,
I saw a lot of nipples. I got confused.
Yeah, there were lots of nipples, and they were all hers.
No, you saw Lenny shirtless once. Because I remember going, when do I see Ralph Fiennes?
Oh,
anyway.
Before we cast, and I didn't cast any of these people, but Gantz Goons, the albino lady.
Oh, right. I didn't
so
cast her
awesome.
either.
She was so awesome, even though she only got one line.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or did she get two? But yeah.
She's the visually interesting thug.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's kind of cool. Like, that she stood out and she was, like, really muscular. And when she shows up.
I liked her.
you should be more worried about her than the rest of the guys.
And they made that clear as when she did take action. But I love the bit between her and Mace where Mace pulls a gun and she says, "You have a nice day now."
Yes.
You have a great evening. Loved it. Because I think it was like the only one of the two lines that she got, and it was a good line.
Yeah.
Seeing those two face off against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interaction in the fight that we don't actually get to see. Like, but it was so satisfying at the same time.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, fuck that. There's no winning this.
Well, and that other thing when they're beating up Lenny, she's got her back turned. She the only way Lenny can take her down is with a chair to the back.
Yeah.
Because he's smart and he knows that he can't take her, right? Yeah. No, and she was a great addition for like a very minor character, but they showed her on the screen a lot. Just sort of in the background, you kind of spot her, and it's like you know she's going to be of importance at some point, even just in a minor way. And I love the way it paid
Nobody
off.
really gets wasted in this movie. It's usually just down to not getting enough of these people. But
Well, like
she's another one I didn't get enough of.
Yeah.
the former football player, where he and Lenny just have like a little
Also
conversation where he's about
interesting
to beat
story.
him up, and he's like, "Dude, this is my job now. I gotta."
Yeah, he's trying to. He's using that gift of gab to try to talk himself out of this beating, and the best he could do is downgrade it. Somewhat.
Well, no, just not the eyes, please. Right?
Yeah.
So he
Covers his eyes.
Yeah, and before he beats him, he covers his eyes with one hand.
and also lets him take off his jacket. He's like, "Please, let me take off my jacket. It's very expensive."
He's keep trying to trade these Rolexes, and they're all fakes.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah,
that.
and everybody busts him too. It's like the football player. I got a real one.
When he's trying to save his car too, guy takes the Rolex and then still rolls off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you knew that was going to happen.
Of course, it's great. There's lots of funny things that happen to Lenny. They're terrible, but they're funny.
Because he earns every single one of them.
He does,
Right? I mean, that's the thing.
deserves
Is there's nothing Lenny doesn't get anything in this movie he doesn't deserve except for what Max does to him.
Yeah, which is again why I call this neo-noir. Like this is all classic, like hard-boiled detective kind of stuff that you would get out of a 40s detective movie, and it's just all transplanted. It's fantastic.
It's
Lenny's path to redemption, which is very also neo-noir, right? He's this sort of run-down, beat-up, pretty much a waste of skin kind of person who redeems himself and finds.
You've got the femme fatale.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got the one that redeems everybody.
The powerful guy who gets his goons to beat him up.
The friend that betrays him.
Yeah.
You know,
You're
all
right.
the elements of noir are there.
This is Mickey Spillane.
Yeah, all that's missing is the hat and like a cigarette all the time.
The squib is the hat. The squid is the hat.
Oh my god!
Smoke
rabbit hole
and the
gets even
addiction at the
deeper.
same
Yeah.
time.
Sweet.
Yeah, he's even sneaking off into the bathroom sometimes to do one of those squib moments. Like that's just sneaking off and having a smoke.
See, I thought he was reviewing the
He
footage
was.
to buy.
I'm trying to tie loosely.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One more thing about the footage, though, I thought was really interesting is getting like some of the porn footage, and they have like the one with the girl, and it turns out it's just two girls. I'm like, that would be interesting. Like, if you were just curious, you're like, I'm this, but what's it like to have sex if you're the other person?
When he's trying to sell to the one guy.
Like, if I want to know what dudes feel.
Yeah,
that's the way
when
to
he's
do it.
trying to sell the one guy, and the guy's like feeling himself up, and it's because it's like the 18-year-old having a shower. That's what you never see it, but that's what they tell you it is. And I'm like, oh, well, how interesting.
Yeah, and I like the way they did a lot of those. And that'd be a good way to tighten up the film is to have some of those moments more like that, where they're responding to it and then they sort of tell you what it was.
The reactions are just as interesting, if not more interesting, but you can't do that without sometimes showing it.
Oh, exactly. You have to balance it.
You can't sell the reaction without selling that reality of what they're experiencing first.
Yeah, especially when during Iris's murder scene with the whole blackjack thing, which was traumatizing to see. I will admit that I was actually uncomfortable watching that, and I remember being uncomfortable every time I've seen that particular scene because it is pretty traumatizing.
It's very upsetting.
I could have done without that, seeing it from that point of view.
And you know what?
As
I
far
could
as
have
they
done
went
without it,
with
but it
it.
was so important because to feed the reactions from Max and from Tick later.
Yeah, because it's the point is you can describe it, but it's so sick that the guy has his thing on and has it on her, so she gets to experience what he's through him, and then like, loading it back.
The rape and
That's
murder that's happening,
horrifying.
and she's seeing it from his perspective. Oh, like, my God.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it was
thought of that is
supposed to make you uncomfortable, and
Yeah,
it does. It's very
it does.
successful in that. And as much as I didn't want to see it, you had to see it.
Yeah, and Lenny's reaction to it is spot on.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's extreme, but it's, I think,
Yeah.
what
Well-
a normal human being would do.
Yeah, and I
feel sick.
I almost didn't want. I was disappointed in Max's and Tick's reaction.
Yeah.
Even though I knew that Max was the bad guy because I've seen this enough times.
It's Tom Sizemore. He's always going to be the bad guy.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just his life at
Yeah.
this point.
But yeah, Tick in particular looked like he was actually kind of getting off on it to a certain extent. He didn't look
Yeah.
uncomfortable. He looked like
Well, for a guy who's already trying to sell snuff,
yeah.
it's not his first rodeo in that regard.
Probably
But
not.
still,
Probably
he should have been a bit more. He's like,
Yeah.
look, I deal in snuff, but this is next level shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Lenny's reaction to it was probably the closest to that normal person would react.
That's
to something
right.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to acknowledge that Tick's definitely damaged, and we now know Max is the bad guy who was actually the guy who did it in the first place. You buy his less than realistic reaction.
It does feel like a fake reaction.
It does.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's
He
supposed
throws
to.
his sandwich away and he's like, well, I'm not going to eat for
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it,
Which you can flesh out in the miniseries.
Yeah, exactly. So it does sort of set it up so that they give you clues that Max isn't a good guy.
Yeah,
But-
there's definitely hints, but if you hadn't seen the movie before, you might pick up on them, you might not.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this movie is not a lot of it's force fed to you, but it all does come together and make sense.
See, and when it came to like how he was kicked off the force, I always thought it had something to do with Max. Something that Max did.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is because Max is also no longer a cop, right?
Yeah.
So it could be.
But Max stayed in the game. He went to become a PI.
True, but I mean that doesn't mean they weren't partners and he didn't do something
Yeah,
shady.
No.
they were very clearly partners when they were on the force together.
Yeah, I certainly got that feeling as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
And I think it would have made more sense to have him in that memory moment of Mace. When we see Mace kind of reflecting on what had happened in the past and how she first met Lenny, I think it
Yeah.
would have made sense to have Max in that moment as well.
Yes.
Exactly.
Maybe
Yeah.
he was the one taking out her
Her
husband or her brother or whoever
Was
they're
it her husband?
arresting
Yeah.
before she goes and sees Lenny being kind to her son.
Yeah, I think that's an important tie-in. Actually, I think
Yeah.
you've filled in one of the small gaps there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, because having Max sort of involved in whatever got them fired from the force is probably a good idea. I still like the idea of having something to do with faith, though.
Oh yeah, no. I mean,
sure.
you can still have it also have something to do with faith, but yeah.
Or maybe even have Max resigning from the force in protest of.
Yeah, show
Lenny
what
being
a good friend
fired.
he was to Lenny,
Yeah.
up to the point where he's not anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I still want to see a bit of his sociopathic tendencies that are hints.
I mean, your main character is a very flawed character, and there's so much more you can expand on there. And Sam's got an idea.
Yeah. He's got idea face.
Yeah, he's got idea face. I wish I could explain what that looks like.
Yeah, you don't want to see my idea face. So here, how about
It's a lot
this?
like a cum face.
Yeah, that's why I said you don't want to know. Anyhow,
Well, he seems pretty happy about it, so yeah, that's good.
Okay, back to Rat.
Sorry.
Sorry, Jay. Max and Faith have a relationship at the end of the movie. What if they have a relationship earlier on, and they get fired because of something Max and Faith do together?
Ooh.
Right?
I don't see Lenny being too friendly with Max
But
post to something
doesn't
like that.
know.
He doesn't know. He doesn't
He
know
only
that Faith's
knows
involved.
Faith was involved. He doesn't know Max is involved.
Or he doesn't know that Faith was involved, but he knows that Max was involved. But he took the fall for Max, not knowing that Faith was actually
Ooh.
part of the whole scheme that got him fired.
Or Max tells him everything that Max takes responsibility for it to not tell him about him and Faith.
Exactly. And then it brings it all back together.
And then
Yeah.
Lenny sticks by his partner because he thinks he's an idiot. He doesn't think he's a bad person.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe just Lenny just gets fired because he's Max's partner, and even though they can't prove he was involved,
They think he
guilt
is.
by association, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you got one dirty cop, you got two.
Yeah, and that would explain Lenny's resentment towards the commissioner, because he was unjustly fired because he really didn't do anything.
Right.
Right?
Nice.
It could work.
I like
it.
that.
There'd be some anger issues after something like that, too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But he doesn't blame Max; he blames the commissioner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he feels it was unjust, and so he just hangs out with Max. It's like, well, we were partners. You were an idiot. It's fine.
Yeah. And maybe the commissioner's antagonistic because he did have respect for this guy at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the commissioner believes he believes he might have been involved, and he's like he thought this guy was on the track to becoming a commissioner because he thought he was a decent man. He was so pissed off.
Yeah, he could also be like Lenny could be like his protege there. He's trying to bring him up and
betrayal.
There's a lot of, that all
Feels
makes
like betrayal to the commissioner.
Yeah, and that it makes sense because everything in this movie is really personal for a lot of these characters, and those are great places to explore.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's all these large events, but it's the way people dealt with it is because they felt they took it personally.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, let's get into some recasting. Trish, why don't you start us off?
Okay, I kind of kept everybody sort of the same. I like the idea of making it a female rapper. Now I'm going to I don't know who I'd put, but I do have another Jericho. So for my Lenny, I have Michael Sheen. Mm-hmm. He's done some pretty cool stuff, and I kind of see him being playing both sides, like being a down on his luck guy with low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Mace, I had trouble casting, and I'm still not sure, but I kind of like this. I'm trying to make her the right age. Naomi Harris. She was also in Skyfall, so she's done like some action stuff.
Okay.
And then for Gant, I put Ralph Fiennes because I'm like, I just want to see him play that character.
Oh, and the commissioner?
No, Gant, the evil producer.
For the producer role. Okay.
Which is a relatively small role.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's a little younger in this movie, but nothing seemed to be age specific.
Yeah.
So
no. But I like the idea of him doing, because he can do slimy too. We've seen it.
I mean, you have to have him old enough to sort of have a history.
Yes.
Right? But not so old that a teenage former prostitute is going to seem skeevy. Well, it's skeevier than it already is.
I think it's supposed to seem skeevy.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely seem slimier as it goes.
Yeah, as he's that old.
Yeah.
And then Faith, I have Jenna Malone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. She's pretty good. And then, I don't know why, I thought this would be funny. For Max, I have Nicolas Cage.
It's funny, he crossed my mind too. He totally crossed my mind too. I didn't go with him, but he did totally cross my mind.
I like it.
Nice. I cast Jericho. William Jackson Harper. He plays Chidi on The Good Place. I just want to see him in a different role.
Okay.
For I think it's Steckler, who's the corrupt cop. I didn't do the other guy that was William Fichtner because he had such a small role. Neil McDonough. He's that blonde bad guy you just know.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Dum Dum Dugan.
Yep.
And then Tick, I have Ray Santiago, because you guys know I love him. Mm-hmm. Iris Vela Lovett, she's been in a few movies, kind of minor roles. She's my crazy ex-girlfriend. And for the director, I went with my... I keep using it as a director, but I think visually, this movie has to have a certain style and a very strong visual choice. So I have Anna Lily Amirpour.
Tyler, why don't we go to our guest next?
Go to me. Yeah, great. So I'll pull out my notes that I left at work as to who I recast.
Do you have a couple anyway in your brain?
Do you remember the major ones?
I do have a couple.
I gave you a whole piece of paper to do it before everybody got here.
Yeah, I could pull that out. I got a couple of names on there that I can remember. Actually, as Lenny, I really did see that character should have been an older person. I thought Ralph Fiennes was way too young. I'd like to see a guy like Tim Roth in there.
Ooh.
He came across my mind as well.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can totally see it.
I mean, I always go, ooh, Tim Roth, because I'm a big fan of Tim Roth.
Yeah, so
have you been watching Tin Star?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen that.
Really? Oh, it's great.
It's done for this season, but it is so good.
Okay, got to do that.
Okay, check it out, guys. 10 Star.
Yep, absolutely. Mace. Actually, I was thinking, can't remember her last name, Carla. She was MMA fighter. She was in Deadpool.
Oh,
what the hell's her name?
Oh, yes, I know who you mean.
I know who you mean too, but I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm not.
But I'd buy her as a bodyguard.
Sure.
All that. Max, TJ Miller.
Nice.
I love that choice.
I really love that choice.
You can really amp up some humor with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because he does play over the top silly kind of goofiness.
And then to make
cover up.
evil at the end, that would
And
be awesome.
he can do it in such a deadpan way too, which is great.
Yeah.
That would be such a kicker.
Yeah. And that's all I could remember who I recast.
Okay. Sam.
Okay. I cast just about everybody except for the henchman, so...
Yeah, I didn't do like the
no.
real henchmen guys, but I cast right down to the two cops, even though they didn't have a lot of dialogue.
I
did one cop.
Cast both cops. So for my Lenny, I went with Diego Luna. I figured he was about the right age.
Okay.
Right? And he played kind of the roguish and the charming at the same time too. Yeah. So I went, okay, Diego Luna.
I came across him. I thought about him.
Yeah. For my Faith, I went with Rihanna.
Ooh.
Sure.
Right.
See, I thought Rihanna for Faith, but she can't act, man.
Well, give her a chance. Maybe let's see if we get the right director to because she's not bad. She's just not all that good.
You know who I actually thought, that nobody knows of as Faith? Free Dominguez.
Ooh, I could go with that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if she can act. I've never seen her act.
I did when I was researching that. I'm like, I need an actress about the right age who can sing.
Yeah. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did.
You don't necessarily need that, but because
of her
Juliette
character.
Lewis actually does it in the film, it sells it more. I always pop out a little bit when it's not the actor singing.
That's right.
Exactly.
So for my Max, I went with Bradley Cooper.
Mm-hmm. Ah, nice.
It's interesting. He's in mine, but different part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For my Mace, I went with Maggie Q.
Cool.
Oh,
Again, very good
yeah.
physical actress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For my Gant, I went with Benedict Cumberbatch because it's a small role, and I just love to see him play that type of character.
Well, Doctor
Right.
Strange, we've seen him play asshole.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, he did come up on my list, and I'm like, oh, he's way too big of an actor for such a small but important part. It's an important part, and you got to have a pretty strong actor in that part.
Yeah, and I mean,
but if we do a miniseries,
but it is fantasy casting, so
it is fantasy casting, right? Like I know in reality that of all the people on my list, he'd be the least likely one you could get.
Yeah.
I mean, even Bradley Cooper, you might get into this into the Max role, but Benedict Cumberbatch is just too big. For my Jericho 1, I went with Donald Glover.
Right.
Ooh, I thought about him too.
Yeah. For my Iris, I went with Alicia Vikander.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
For my Tick, I went a little bit older. I went with John Leguizamo.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd make a good Tick.
Yeah.
He's great in John Wick. It's kind of the same role.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. For my Strickland, I did cast the Commissioner. I went with Angela Bassett.
Cool.
I love it. I love it.
And then for my Steckler, I went with a young actor named Brendan Thwaites, who was in Oculus, Giver. He's going to be playing Dick Grayson in the new Titans TV series.
Yep.
So, and he's got the look where he can kind of be the sort of arrogant cop, but not too thuggish.
Yeah. As of yesterday, they showed a picture of him as Dick Grayson, and it was just kind of the shoulders up, and I'm like, really? You're going to show me a dick pic and only give me just the tip?
There we go. There's your pun. Yay.
That's how you do it, people.
There we go. And then I only have two things left.
An unsolicited dick pic.
Yeah, an unsolicited dick pic. There you go. I did cast Engelman. I haven't seen him act, but he had a look that I really liked, so I went with Jack Lowden from Dunkirk.
Right.
Again, has that sort of that sort of thuggish cop look. I really want to go with the guys who just looked like your sort of stereotypical, not the cop you want to be stopped by.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for my director, I went with somebody who's very good at directing social commentary science fiction. I went with Neil Blomkamp.
Very good.
There we go. Thank you.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, so that was my director. I think kind of informed everything else.
Cool.
Yeah, it's sometimes you get that one hook you think of, and then like dominoes, everything else falls into place.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
But yeah, like I said, as soon as I came with Diego Luna, everything else kind of just dropped into place.
Cool. A lot of my cast happened fairly quickly for such a big cast, and a lot of times I'm struggling, but this one fell pretty quickly. And my director was probably the one I'm most shaky on, but a relatively new director, done a lot of writing. He wrote The Truman Show, but he also wrote Gattaca. Ooh. And he wrote and directed In Time, which I think is an underrated science fiction. And his name is Andrew Niccol.
And Gattaca kind of along the same...
Yeah, so I think he certainly understands how to write a story like this, and given what I saw him do within Time, I think he's an up-and-coming director that will have a strong voice, and maybe a movie like this would be really good for him.
Sweet.
Unlike Kathryn Bigelow. But hopefully they'll market it better next time, because it certainly wasn't because she didn't have the skills.
No.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those ones that's gotten better as time has gone on. People have realized.
Yeah. Now my Lenny Nero was Bradley Cooper.
Oh,
He is Bradley Cooper. So like I said, I had Bradley Cooper in that part, and I think he's really good at the dialogue stuff. I kept thinking of Limitless, and I'm like, yep, that's. I kept coming back to that. So
we'll see what Bradley Cooper's. You just give him one of these. Like, which one do you want to play, Bradley?
Yeah. For Mace, I went with Zoe Saldana.
Awesome.
Okay.
She came across my list too.
Across my mind too.
Yeah. For my Faith, I went with Emily Blunt.
Ooh.
Now she's going to be Mary Poppins next year, so
she can super sing.
She can sing.
Yep.
So, and we've already seen her be a badass as well in
Edge of Tomorrow.
So she's a versatile actress. I a good looking girl as well. I think we could see her get a little more physical in this if need be. But if not, that's fine too, because she still has the skills for all the rest of it. And hopefully they don't have there is no need to show as much nipple as Juliette Lewis was, but it's there if they want to. For my Max, I wanted somebody who's likable but could still come off menacing when the time comes in the movie. I went with Cillian Murphy.
He was also somebody I was looking at.
Super good.
It's funny how
the way he did Scarecrow.
Much crossover we have this episode.
Yeah.
yeah. And
we've been wearing each other's little headpieces.
I'm pretty proud of my cast as a whole. For my Philo Gant, I went with Colin Cunningham. He's going to be one of my go-to guys when I need to. Blood Drive, guys.
Oh, yes.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm a little disappointed in Sam.
I should be. I know this. Why don't I know this?
So he'd be perfect as a music producer.
He totally would.
Hell yeah.
He would also be perfect as Max.
He would be good as Max as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a really good actor. So.
Let's just we'll have Bradley Cooper play both parts. And then we'll have Colin and him switch off Max.
There we go.
For Burton Steckler, he's one of the cops. I went with Charlie Hunnam. He was he was in King Arthur in Pacific Rim. I wasn't going to use him, and then I'm like, I kind of liked his look when he was in King Arthur. So with the more beard and grizzled look, I'm like, he'd be a good cop. I think he'd be a menacing cop. And for my other cop, I went with Toby Cabell as Dwayne Engelman. For my Iris, I went with Marama Corlett. And for my Tick, I went with Charlotte Copley.
You know what's funny? I was thinking, if I was going to say it too, I was going to say, well, now they've cast Neil Blomkamp, I need Charlotte Copley in my movie somewhere.
Yeah, he's always in there.
Yeah,
there you go. And last but certainly not least, Jericho 1, who this movie kind of centers around. I still thought it was important to have somebody who's convincing for that rapper part, and is a really good spokesperson. Is a pretty capable actor, and could come across really well in those public speaking moments outside of the rapping moments. And I went with Common.
He was also on my list. Nice. I was actually going to go with Common. I'm like, no, you know what? I use Common a lot because I really, really enjoy seeing him on screen.
So you're saying Common's quite common for you?
Yeah.
But not for me.
But not for
that might be a first for me. I don't know.
It might be, but yeah,
I've done a lot of these.
It would also be very meta in having him as a rapper / actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the guy who played Jericho 1 was a rapper. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So meta.
Yeah, so cool. I think I'm pretty happy with everybody's casting on this. I think there's strong casting happening all around this time. And
it's super
Jesus, good. Trish, nobody from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, not one.
I know.
That's got Terry Crews in there for
God damn it.
Though.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I had Terry Crews last week, so
yeah. Well, I mean, I was watching The Good Place, so that's where I was.
Okay, there you go. That's our go-to is Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Hey, I just want these people to have big careers.
I don't think that's in doubt.
No, I don't think that is in doubt. But
and I know when Trish is inevitably casting a movie, everybody in Brooklyn Nine-Nine will be in it.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and it is funny because sometimes we do kind of fall into that thing where whatever we're watching kind of sometimes informs our casting. And I mean, you have to be very conscious of that when we're doing it. Because I do. When I've watched something I really enjoyed a performance or an actor in a movie and I think they fit, I'm going to use it.
Yeah,
Right.
and sometimes you do fall into patterns.
Yeah.
Like I think I've got to go through like all our backlog because I know there's times people keep coming up, but we just love the actor. And
Yeah.
it sort of becomes a
Which
pattern.
is fine,
but-
you know, and that's a lot of the times directors wind up doing that. They get their actors that they like working with and they use them multiple times.
We
So
feel like a muse almost, right? They
Yeah.
know they can get the best performance out of them, and they're the right person for the role, right? And that's sometimes why we go to the same people. It's like, yeah, I know that I cast.
well, the way I see it is, it's like American Horror Story. A lot of directors have their go-to acting troupe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to be in the same things, but there are a lot of go-tos, and
Well, yeah.
and we all have them. I've been trying to consciously really mix it up as of late, but maybe that's just because I've been not watching much more than what I need to for the podcast as of late, so I'm having to dig a little deeper.
Well, and you also have like people like Kevin Smith. He has his little group, and like
Sure.
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are usually almost always on screen together.
And Tim Burton and Johnny Depp.
Sure.
Absolutely.
We see it time and time again,
Yeah.
so it's okay. We can do it too.
We can do it too. Absolutely, especially if you feel that person's right for the role. It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
we cast them before.
Although I did find myself where I'm like, I used them like a week or two ago, and so I'll try not to do that.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I just used them like last week or a couple weeks ago. So.
Yeah,
I know it's hard, and sometimes you believe so much. You're like, okay, I just use this person, but honestly, I think this is probably the better role. You kind of have to believe in it.
Yes.
yeah.
And we're always interested in our audience ideas for casting a movie like this or any of our other shows. And you can always tell us your opinions over on our social media at Invasion Remake on Twitter, Invasion of the Remake on Facebook. Go like that page and follow us and share us out. And of course, Invasion of the Remake at gmail.com if you want to send nice long email to us. Be nice.
Yes, please be nice.
Yes.
Oh, or else, what you can do, what I'd like to know actually after this podcast, would you think it would be better as like a TV series or as another movie? I'm curious what they think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Event,
for sure. For sure.
Event or ongoing series.
Yes.
Or movie.
Or just tell us what your holiday movie watching was. We just got through the holidays. Let us know what some of the movies you watched. We certainly had a lot of big ones in the theater, but sometimes there's you got your favorites you watch at this time of year as well. So let us know what yours are as well.
Your New Year's movies. That's another one I kind of want to know about too.
Yeah, well, this was ours this year.
For sure.
And one of Tyler's favorites. Thanks for joining us, Tyler.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully this wasn't Conan for you. This was a movie you actually liked.
I love this movie.
I can see why. It's a good movie.
It is. I hadn't seen it in many, many years, and watching it last night, I was like, oh, God, this is a sheer joy to watch. It still holds up. Majority of the fashions hold up. The acting is stellar. The plot, the filmmaking, like, it's all really good. Like I said, the weakest part is some of the character development. So a minor quibble in an otherwise great movie from
and those are all
1995.
sacrificed due to time. They're trying to get the story in on a long movie.
Yeah.
But it's kind of also fun to watch it back. I'm like, oh yeah, like just feel that nostalgia for when we were younger.
I'd like to see a
I loved
director's
it.
cut of this.
Ooh, Kathryn Bigelow, get on that.
Yeah.
This might be a dark memory in her career where she doesn't want to.
You know what? She should be proud of this film,
She should
regardless
be.
of how it
She
did.
should, yeah.
Yeah, regardless of how little the box office was, she made a spectacular movie.
It stands the test of time. I think as time went on, it became more noted than it was before.
This deserves cult status, and I don't think it's there yet, but it should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even got a great freaking title.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're pulling that straight from the doors.
Yeah.
Also a member of the 27 Club, which is like Jericho 1.
Yes.
There's a whole bunch going on.
Yeah, well, there's just those Easter egg moments, right even in the title, so...
Yeah, and everybody, and lots of a really good message too, guys. Like sometimes memories should probably fade, or you'll be stuck in the past forever.
Yes, that's a good circle around because I used that clip when we opened, and that's exactly it. Don't be so reliant on your devices either. So,
Look up once in a while.
Look up once in a while and see who's walking towards you and say hi.
Experience real life.
That's right. Experience real life instead of the virtual world, and catching non-existent Pokemon.
Exactly.
Is that still a big thing?
It probably isn't what it was, but I'm sure it's still pretty big.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, we always do this all live because we like to be together in a room to talk to each other.
Exactly. I mean, I could easily have people Skype in, but this is more intimate. This is the way to do it. It sounds better too.
Well, it sounds better, yeah. And you know what? And after a long week of work, it's a way of guaranteeing that I get to see my friends once a week.
Yes.
For sure.
At least once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
nice.
I'm hoping we're friends with all of our audience too. And if you want to show us a kindness, please give us a 5-star review and a rating over on Apple Podcasts /iTunes. Help other people find the show and get their
Earballs.
on it. I botched the line, but I brought it back because got to get it in there, right?
It's all good, right?
Got to get it in there. You can also tell people how to find the show. You already know how, but tell your friends how to find the show. We are on a ton of platforms. Just search us out. We are on most podcast catchers. You can find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Blueberry, TuneIn Radio, Player FM, of course, our host site, Libsyn.com, and even frickin' YouTube.
Sorry.
Sam's upset he missed it.
But he was drinking his beer, so I understand.
I understand. Beer first. He's like, oh, God damn it, I missed it.
Priorities.
It was poor timing.
I support his choices.
All right, well, that was Strange Days. Thanks for joining us, Tyler.
Yes.
And we'll be back here again next week. We're back on target now. We took a couple weeks off, although we gave you a little something for the holidays, but we had some time off there as well. And we'll be back on schedule from here on in. So we'll see you guys next week. I've been Jason.
I am always Sam.
I continue to be Trish.
And I'm still Tyler.
Yay.
You sure?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Poke him, see.
No, he's too far away.
And he'll hit you.
I know.
Most likely.
And we are out of here.
Now listen, I want you to know what we're talking about here, okay? This is not like TV, only better. This is life. It's a piece of somebody's life. It's pure and uncut, straight from the cerebral cortex. I mean, you're there, you're doing it, you're seeing it, you're hearing it, you're feeling it.
What kind of things exactly?
Exactly anything is whatever you want, whoever you want to be, okay? I mean, if you want to go skiing without leaving your den, you can, but I'm assuming that a guy like you want to go skiing, you fly to Aspen. That's not what you're interested in here. It's about the stuff that you can't have, right? The forbidden fruit, It's like running into a liquor store with a .357 Magnum in your hand, feeling the adrenaline pumping through your veins, huh? Or, you see that guy over there with the drop-dead Filipino girlfriend? Wouldn't you let it be that guy for 20 minutes? The right 20 minutes? Yeah, and I can make it happen, and you won't even tarnish your wedding ring.
Sounds good.
See, I can get you what you want. I can get you anything. You just have to talk to me. You have to trust me, okay? Trust me. Because I'm your priest. I'm your shrink. I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man. The Santa Claus is the subconscious. You say it. You think it. You can have it.